The morning shift at Earth Central Communication Hub started like any other day. Captain Kim Day poured his third cup of synthetic coffee and settled into his monitoring chair, the familiar hum of quantum transmitters filling the vast control room. Around him, dozens of technicians tracked signals from humanity's 847 colonies scattered across the galaxy. "Captain, we've got a problem," Lieutenant Park High called out, her voice cutting through the background chatter. Her fingers moved rapidly across the holographic display, pulling up data streams that flickered with concerning red indicators. Day rolled his chair over to her station, his experienced eyes immediately focusing on the troubling pattern. New Eden Colony? 3 days of silence, complete communication blackout. Park's usually steady voice carried an edge of worry that made other nearby technicians glance up from their own stations. New Eden wasn't just any colony. It was one of humanity's crown jewels, a lush agricultural world that fed 12 other systems, home to 2.3 million souls, including families, children, scientists, and farmers who had built something beautiful in the vast darkness of space. Equipment. Failure? Day asked, though his gut already knew the answer. Negative, all backup systems show green, emergency beacons are dead too. Park pulled up the colony's last transmission log. Final message was routine. Harvest reports, shipping schedules, a birthday party invitation for Governor Song's daughter. The normalcy of that last message made Day's blood run cold. In 30 years of colonial oversight, he'd seen mechanical failures, solar storms, even pirate raids. But total communication blackouts only happened for one reason. Something catastrophic had occurred. "Deploy the reconnaissance drones immediately," Day ordered, his voice carrying the authority of 3 decades in space. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know what happened to our people." The next 6 hours crawled by like centuries. Day paced the control room while Park coordinated with the drone operators. Other colonies checked in with their routine reports. Crop yields from Harvest Moon Station, mining quotas from the asteroid belt facilities, research updates from the deep space laboratories. Normal life continuing while somewhere in the void, New Eden remained ominously silent. The first drone reached New Eden's system at 14:30 Earth Standard Time. Its initial scans should have detected the familiar signatures of human civilization. Power grids, transport networks, communication arrays, the warm glow of cities filled with life. Instead, the readings made no sense. "Captain," the drone operator called out, his face pale as he stared at the incoming data. "You need to see this." The main display screen flickered to life, showing New Eden from orbit. What had once been humanity's third-largest agricultural colony was now a wasteland of cooling glass and twisted metal. Where the capital city of Haven had stood, only a perfectly circular crater remained, its edges still glowing with residual heat. "Mother of Earth," Park whispered, her hand covering her mouth. The drone's camera swept across the planetary surface, revealing the systematic destruction of human civilization. Manufacturing centers had been melted into slag heaps. The orbital elevator that connected the planet to its space station was gone, leaving only twisted debris floating in the void. Transport hubs, research facilities, schools, hospitals, all reduced to smoking ruins. But it was the residential areas that truly horrified the watching humans. The drone's thermal imaging revealed thousands of human-shaped shadows burned permanently into walls and pavement. The final moments of 2.3 million people preserved in atomic fire. "Sir," the communications officer called out, his voice shaking. "I'm detecting debris patterns in the outer system. It looks like they tried to evacuate." The drone footage shifted to show the scattered remains of civilian transport ships, their hulls torn apart by weapons that cut through human armor like paper. Escape pods floated empty in the void, their emergency beacons long since powered down. Commander Lee Min burst into the control room, still wearing his dress uniform from the morning ceremony. He'd been celebrating the promotion of young officers to the colonial service when the emergency alert reached him. "Report," he demanded, though the horrified expressions around the room already told him everything he needed to know. "New Eden is gone," Day said simply. "Every last soul." Min's face went through a series of emotions, disbelief, horror, and finally cold rage. "Show me the attack vectors." The drone had detected something else in its sweep of the system, debris from alien spacecraft, unlike anything in human databases. The fragments revealed technology that was both advanced and deliberately predatory. These weren't exploration vessels or even military ships built for conventional warfare. They were designed for one purpose: the complete elimination of planetary populations. Analysis confirms xenotech weapons, Park reported, her technical training helping her maintain composure. Energy signatures suggest directed plasma bombardment, followed by systematic ground sweeps. They didn't just attack New Eden, they sterilized it. Min studied the alien debris patterns, his military mind already working through the implications. This wasn't random. The attack was too coordinated, too thorough. Someone planned this. A junior technician at a nearby station looked up from his analysis. "Sir, I'm detecting faint data streams from the planetary archives. The automated systems kept recording even during the attack. The recovered data told a chilling story. The aliens had arrived without warning, massive ships that dropped out of hyperspace like sharks emerging from dark water. They called themselves the Kethvar Dominion, and their opening transmission to New Eden's government was brief and terrifying. 'Your species shows promise. We require practice targets.' The attack had lasted exactly 47 minutes. 47 minutes to erase 2.3 million human lives and centuries of colonial development. The final transmission from New Eden's emergency command center was a desperate plea. 'Tell Earth we tried to fight. Tell them to remember us.' Min closed his eyes, the weight of command settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. When he opened them again, his expression had changed from grief to something far more dangerous. 'Get me Admiral Choi Jin,' he ordered. 'Priority Alpha communication, and patch me through to the President's office.' Day looked up from the continuing drone feeds. 'Sir?' 'The Kethvar Dominion wanted to practice on our people,' Min said quietly, his voice carrying a promise that made everyone in the room stand a little straighter. 'It's time they learned what happens when humanity stops practicing and starts playing for keeps.' The emergency session of the United Earth Assembly had never seen anything like this. Representatives from 847 worlds filled the massive chamber, their faces grim as they watched President Yoon-ha step up to the central podium. The holographic displays around the room showed the devastating images from New Eden, a constant reminder of what they had lost. "Citizens of humanity," President Yoon began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. 72 hours ago, an alien species calling itself the Kethvar Dominion murdered 2.3 million of our people. They didn't attack military targets. They didn't demand surrender. They simply erased an entire world because they wanted practice. The chamber remained dead silent. Even the usual political rivals sat united in their shock and anger. "The Kethvar Dominion has declared war on humanity through genocide," Yoon continued, her voice growing stronger. "Today, we answer, not with words, not with diplomacy, but with the full industrial might of human civilization. We will show them what happens when they threaten our children." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Before Yoon had even finished her speech, communication channels across human space lit up with offers of support. Mining worlds pledged their entire industrial output. Manufacturing colonies began, retooling their production lines. Even the Outer Rim settlements, barely more than research stations, offered what ships they had. Admiral Song-woo stood in the command center of Lunar Command, watching through the massive viewing ports as the soil system transformed before his eyes. In the 3 days since New Eden's destruction, every shipyard had been working around the clock. The sight outside was both beautiful and terrifying. "Admiral, the numbers are in," Captain Nam-soo reported, her voice filled with amazement as she read from her tablet. 700,000 vessels confirmed for the fleet, everything from patrol boats to super dreadnoughts. Song studied the deployment charts floating in the air before him. Each dot represented a warship, and there were so many dots that they formed solid walls of light. Classification breakdown: 200,000 escort frigates and destroyers, 150,000 cruisers of various classes, 300,000 support vessels, carriers, supply ships, mobile repair platforms, and 50,000 capital ships, including 47 orbital bombardment platforms. The orbital bombardment platforms were humanity's answer to planetary siege warfare. Each one carried enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Song had never imagined seeing more than a handful in one place, let alone 47. "What about the reserve fleets?" Song asked. Nam's expression grew even more serious. "That's the thing, sir. These aren't reserves. Every world has contributed their active defense fleets. We're looking at the combined naval power of human civilization, everything we've built in 4 centuries of expansion." Through the viewing port, Song watched as the massive dreadnought Humanity's Wrath maneuvered into formation. The ship was over 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could level cities. Behind it came the carrier New Eden's Vengeance, its launch bays already filled with fighter squadrons eager for combat. The communication systems crackled to life as reports flooded in from across the system. The asteroid mining platforms had been converted into missile production facilities, churning out weapons at a rate that defied belief. The gas giant refineries were working overtime to fuel the massive fleet. Even the civilian shipyards were pumping out support vessels and ammunition haulers. "Sir," Nam continued, "we're also getting reports from the outer colonies. The agricultural worlds are sending food transports, the research stations are contributing their experimental weapons, and the frontier settlements—" She paused, reading, something that made her smile grimly. "The frontier settlements are sending their entire populations as volunteers." Song wasn't surprised. Humanity had always been at its strongest when threatened. The species that had colonized hostile worlds and built cities in the void wouldn't be intimidated by alien predators. "What's our production capacity looking like?" Song asked. "Off the charts, sir. The civilian manufacturing network has been militarized. Every 3D printer, every automated factory, every construction robot is now building weapons and ships. Our industrial output has increased by 3,000% in just 3 days." The viewing port's automated systems dimmed as another massive vessel moved. Past the supercarrier Terra's shield, its hull so large it blocked out the stars. Its launch bays could deploy 10,000 fighters at once, and its weapons could engage targets in different star systems simultaneously. Captain Nam pulled up another display, showing the fleet's composition. "Admiral, we've got something interesting. The civilian shipping companies have volunteered their entire merchant fleets. We're talking about converted cargo haulers, passenger liners, even luxury yachts fitted with weapons. And, well, sir, it turns out that when you add civilian vessels to military ones, you get some interesting results. We've got mobile cities, flying factories and hospital ships the size of space stations. This isn't just a fleet, it's a moving civilization." Song nodded, understanding the implications. Humanity wasn't just sending warships to fight the Kethvar, they were sending everything. Their technology, their industry, their entire way of life turned into a weapon of war. The communication board lit up with an incoming transmission from Earth. President Yoon's face appeared on the main screen, addressing the assembled fleet commanders. "Admirals, the final count is in. 700,000 vessels, carrying 12 million crew members, supported by the combined industrial output of 847 worlds. The largest military force in human history is now under your command." Song looked out at the endless ranks of ships, stretching to the horizon of space. Fighter squadrons moved between the larger vessels like schools of deadly fish. Supply convoys stretched in perfect lines toward the outer system, and at the center of it all, the command ships where humanity's finest military minds planned the destruction of an entire alien species. "The Kethvar wanted to see what humanity is capable of," Song said quietly, his words carried by the fleet's communication network to every ship in the armada. "They killed our people to test our strength. Now they're going to learn that when you threaten human children, you don't face human soldiers, you face human civilization itself." The response from the fleet was immediate. 700,000 vessels acknowledged the order, their engines beginning to glow as they prepared for the long journey to Kethvar space. The greatest armada in galactic history was about to teach the universe a lesson that would echo through the stars for millennia. Humanity's children were not practice targets. The great fleet cut through hyperspace like a knife through darkness, 700,000 human warships moving in perfect formation toward Kethvar territory. Admiral Song-woo stood on the bridge of his flagship, Terra's Vengeance, watching the tactical displays that showed the systematic destruction of an alien empire. "Jump complete, Admiral," announced Navigator Lee Bo from his station. "We're now entering the Kethvar Outer Rim, the Zephon system." Through the massive viewing screens, Song could see the alien colony world of Zephon Prime spinning lazily in the void. 3 months ago, this had been a thriving Kethvar military outpost with orbital shipyards and defense platforms. Now it was about to become another lesson in human warfare. "Kethvar Defense Fleet is moving to intercept," reported Captain Park Jun from the tactical station. 200 vessels, mostly heavy cruisers and battleships. Song almost felt sorry for them. 200 ships against 700,000. The Kethvar commanders probably thought they were facing a small human raiding force, not the entire military might of human civilization. "Begin the demonstration," Song ordered calmly. The human fleet's response was swift and overwhelming. 1,000 destroyers broke formation and swept toward the Kethvar defense fleet like a swarm of angry hornets. Their plasma cannons lit up space with brilliant blue fire, while missile volleys darkened the void with their exhaust trails. The Kethvar ships tried to fight back, their own weapons flashing in desperate defiance, but they were designed to fight primitive species with small fleets and basic technology. Against human military doctrine, refined through 4 centuries of expansion wars and corporate conflicts, they stood no chance. "Enemy fleet destroyed," Park reported after just 18 minutes of combat. "No human casualties." The orbital defense platforms around Zephon Prime lasted another 30 minutes before the human bombardment ships reduced them to glowing debris. The planet's surface installations surrendered without firing a shot, their commanders finally understanding what they were facing. "Another system secured," Song noted, making a mark on the tactical display. "How many does that make?" 47. "Kethvar systems cleared in 3 months, replied Captain Park. "They're abandoning the outer territories and falling back to their core worlds." Song nodded, studying the galactic map that showed the steady advance of human forces. The Great Fleet wasn't just conquering Kethvar space. They were systematically dismantling an entire interstellar empire with the efficiency of a factory production line. "Sir," called out Commander Kim Soo from the intelligence station, "we're intercepting alien communications. The Kethvar High Command is in full panic mode." "What are they saying?" Kim's translation software worked quickly, converting the alien signals into readable text. "They're calling it the human swarm. Their military leaders are describing our fleet as impossible numbers of death ships that move like a single mind." Through the ship's internal communication system, Song could hear the reports coming in from other task forces spread across Kethvar space. Admiral Choi Min reported the fall of the Nexus shipyards, the alien empire's primary military construction facility. Admiral Park Soo announced the capture of 3 more colony worlds, their populations surrendering the moment human ships appeared in their systems. The speed of the campaign was breathtaking. What the Kethvar had built over centuries of conquest was crumbling in months under human assault. Their mistake had been assuming that humans were like the other species they'd encountered, small populations with limited military capacity. "Admiral," Kim continued, her voice filled with dark satisfaction, "the Kethvar are sending distress calls to their allied species. They're begging for military support." "And the response?" Complete silence. "Every species in the region has gone. Dark? No one wants to be associated with the Kethvar now." Song wasn't surprised. The galaxy's other civilizations were probably watching the human campaign with growing horror, realizing that the species they'd dismissed as young upstarts possessed military capabilities that dwarfed entire galactic sectors. The tactical displays showed why the aliens were terrified. The human fleet didn't just outnumber their enemies, they outfought them with devastating efficiency. Human ships moved in coordinated swarms, their tactics refined by centuries of corporate wars and territorial disputes. Where alien fleets relied on individual ship combat, humans fought as a single organism with 700,000 parts. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Kethvar homeworld," announced Communications Officer Nam Ji. It's a surrender offer." Song's expression didn't change. "Put it through." The alien commander who appeared on screen was clearly desperate. His reptilian features were twisted with fear as he spoke in broken human language. "Great human fleet, we offer complete surrender. We will abandon all conquered territories. We will pay tribute. Please mercy for our homeworld." The bridge fell silent as every human officer stared at the alien's plea. Song let the silence stretch for long moments before responding. "You came to New Eden without warning," he said quietly. "You murdered 2.3 million human civilians. You called them practice targets." His voice grew colder. "There is no mercy for species that hunt our children." He cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. "How long until we reach their homeworld?" 6 days at current speed, Admiral. Signal the fleet. Full advance. And send a message to Earth. Tell them, the hunt is nearly over. As the Great Fleet began its final approach to Kethvar space, alien governments across the galaxy quietly updated their diplomatic protocols. The humans had revealed something terrifying about their species. They didn't just wage war, they waged extinction. And when their children were threatened, they brought the full industrial might of 847 worlds to bear against their enemies. The Kethvar Dominion had wanted to test human strength by attacking New Eden. Now they were about to learn that when you hunt human children, you don't face human soldiers. You face human civilization itself, and all the terrible patience and industrial power that had built an empire among the stars. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The sight above Kethmore Prime defied imagination. 700,000 human warships stretched across the alien homeworld sky like a metal storm cloud that blocked out the stars. From the command bridge of Terra's Vengeance, Admiral Song-Woo gazed down at the planet that had sent death to New Eden, his weathered face showing no emotion as he watched the Kethvar orbital defenses tremble before humanity's might. The alien. Defense platforms that had once been the terror of 17 conquered species now looked pathetic against the human armada. Massive battle stations that could crack moons hung motionless in space, their weapon systems powered down in a gesture of hopeless surrender. The Kethvar fleet, what remained of it after 3 months of systematic destruction, huddled close to their homeworld like frightened children. Admiral called out Lieutenant Lee, so from the communications station, her young voice carrying barely controlled rage. "We're receiving multiple transmissions from the planet's surface. The Kethvar government wants to negotiate." Song didn't respond immediately. He studied the tactical displays showing Kethmore Prime in perfect detail. This world had been the heart of an empire built on genocide. From here, the Kethvar had sent their fleets to destroy 17 different species, treating entire civilizations as practice targets for their military exercises. "Put the main transmission through," Song finally ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the desperate face of the Kethvar Supreme Commander. The alien's reptilian features were twisted with fear, his scaled skin glistening with what humans might recognize as sweat. Behind him, other Kethvar officials cowered in what appeared to be an underground bunker. "Great Human Admiral," the alien began, his voice translated by the ship's computers, "we surrender completely. We offer full reparations for the colony you call New Eden. We will give you entire star systems, tribute fleets, anything you desire. Please, show mercy to our people." The bridge fell silent. Every human officer present had seen the recordings. From New Eden, the shadows burned into walls, the escape pods torn apart in space, the complete erasure of 2.3 million innocent lives. They had also seen the Kethvar military records, recovered from captured databanks, showing how this species had systematically destroyed world after world for sport. Song stared at the screen for long moments, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but carried the weight of absolute authority. "You came to New Eden without warning," he said, each word carefully measured. "You murdered every man, woman and child on that world. Your own records show you called them practice targets." The Kethvar Supreme Commander's eyes widened in panic. We were following our ancient traditions. We meant no personal offense. To your species, surely we can reach an understanding between civilized beings." Song reached forward and cut the transmission without another word. The screen went black, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Captain Choi Bin looked up from his weapons console, his fingers hovering over the targeting controls. "Admiral, orders?" Song walked to the massive viewing port and stared down at the alien world below. Kethmore Prime was beautiful in its own way, swirling blue oceans, green continents, cities that sparkled like jewels in the sunlight. It looked peaceful, almost innocent. But this world had been the command center for the systematic murder of billions of innocent beings across 17 star systems. New Eden had 2.3 million civilians, Song said quietly, his voice carrying to every officer on the bridge, children playing in parks, farmers tending their crops, scientists working to better humanity's future. All of them burned away because these creatures wanted target practice. He turned back to face his crew, and they saw something in his eyes that chilled them, not rage but cold, implacable justice. "Begin orbital bombardment," Song ordered. "All ships, all weapons. Continue until there's nothing left to surrender." The response from the Great Fleet was immediate and overwhelming. 700,000 warships opened fire simultaneously, their weapons creating a light show that could be seen from neighboring star systems. Plasma beams carved through the atmosphere like lightning bolts from angry gods. Missile volleys fell like deadly rain, each warhead carrying enough explosive power to level a city. The Kethvar orbital defenses tried desperately to return fire, but they were overwhelmed in seconds. Battle stations that had terrorized entire sectors of space were reduced to expanding clouds of superheated metal and plasma. The alien fleet managed one final futile charge toward the human armada before being vaporized by concentrated fire from 1,000 destroyers. On the planet's surface, the bombardment was methodical and absolute. Military installations vanished in the first hour. Government buildings disappeared in the second. By the third day, the human fleet was targeting individual city blocks with surgical precision, ensuring that nothing that had contributed to the Kethvar war machine would survive. Commander Kim Soo monitored the alien communications networks as they went dark one by one. "Their military command structure is completely destroyed," she reported. "No organized resistance remaining." "What about civilian evacuation efforts?" asked Captain Park Jun. "None detected. They never developed evacuation protocols because they never expected to be on the receiving end of planetary assault." Song nodded grimly. The Kethvar had been so confident in their military superiority that they had never prepared for the possibility of defeat. They had built their entire civilization around conquest and intimidation, never imagining that they might someday face a species with superior firepower and industrial capacity. The bombardment continued for 6 standard days. On the first day, the planet's military died. On the second day, its government fell. By the third day, its cities were cooling craters. On the fourth day, the orbital infrastructure became debris. The fifth day saw the destruction of the underground bunkers and hidden facilities. By the sixth day, Kethmore Prime was nothing more than a ball of cooling rock orbiting a star that would forever mark the grave of a species that had learned. Too late what happened when you threatened human children. As the last weapons fell silent, Song stood once again at the viewing port, looking down at what had once been the heart of an interstellar empire. The planet below was dark now, its surface scarred and lifeless, a monument to the consequences of genocide. "Signal the fleet," he ordered quietly. "The Kethvar Dominion is extinct. Begin the journey home." Across the galaxy, other species monitored the human transmissions with growing fear and respect. The message was clear. Humanity had revealed its true nature. They were not conquerors seeking territory or resources. They were builders and protectors who, when their children were threatened, could unleash industrial-scale destruction with terrifying efficiency. The galaxy would never be the same. The return of the Great Fleet to Earth was a sight that would be remembered for centuries. 700,000 human warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of Sol as they took position around humanity's homeworld. The armada stretched beyond the curve of the planet itself, a metal constellation that dwarfed even Earth's massive orbital cities. Admiral Song Woo stood in the Fleet Command Center aboard Terra's Vengeance, watching through the viewing ports as his ships settled into their designated positions. 6 months had passed since the destruction of Kethmore Prime, and the galaxy had been remarkably quiet during their journey home. "Admiral," reported Captain Park Jun, "all fleet elements are in position. Earth Traffic Control is requesting permission to begin the victory parade formations." "Denied," Song replied firmly. "This isn't a parade, this is a demonstration." The difference was important. A parade celebrated victory over a defeated enemy. A demonstration showed potential enemies what they would face if they chose to threaten human civilians. Every alien government in the galaxy would be watching the human fleet's return, calculating whether their own military forces could challenge such overwhelming power. Down on Earth's surface, President Yoon Ha prepared to address not just humanity's 847 worlds, but every inhabited planet in the known galaxy. The United Earth Assembly had been expanded for the occasion, with diplomatic observers from dozens of alien species filling the viewing galleries. They sat in uncomfortable silence, knowing they were about to witness the birth of a new galactic order. "Citizens of the galaxy," President Yoon began, her voice carried by quantum transmitters to every star system within 1,000 light years. 6 months ago, the species known as the Kethvar Dominion chose to murder 2.3 million human civilians on the world we called New Eden. They did this not for resources, not for territory, but because they wanted practice in genocide. The alien observers shifted nervously in their seats. Several species had maintained diplomatic relations with the Kethvar, and a few had even purchased conquered worlds from them. Now they realized they had been dealing with a species that humanity had completely erased from existence. "Today, we announce the New Eden Doctrine," Yoon continued, her words echoing through the vast chamber and across the galaxy. "Any attack on human civilians will result in complete species extinction. No negotiation, no mercy, no survivors. This is not a threat, this is a promise." The words hit the alien diplomatic community like a physical blow. Most galactic conflicts were settled through territorial concessions, tribute payments, or limited military actions. The idea of complete species extinction as official policy was beyond their understanding. Admiral Song watched the fleet dispersal begin from his command center. Unlike previous military campaigns in galactic history, the Great Fleet would not be standing down after its victory. The 700,000 vessels were being assigned to permanent patrol routes throughout human space, creating an impenetrable shield around humanity's colonies. "Deployment status report," Song requested. Captain Nam Su consulted her tactical displays. "First battle group is taking position along the Outer Rim territories. 2nd through 5th groups are establishing patrol routes through the core systems. The heavy bombardment wings are being stationed at strategic jump points throughout human space." Song nodded with satisfaction. Every major hyperspace route leading to human territory would now be guarded by ships capable of destroying entire fleets. Any alien force attempting to approach human colonies would face overwhelming firepower before they could even enter a star system. The communication boards throughout the Fleet Command Center were lighting up with reports from across human space. Captain Kim Dae, recently promoted to oversee colonial communications, coordinated the incoming data streams with the efficiency of a master conductor. "Admiral," Kim reported, "I'm receiving status updates from all 847 human worlds. Every colony is reporting normal operations, increased security, and something interesting." "Go on." "Trade requests. We are getting thousands of requests from alien species, wanting to establish peaceful trade relations with humanity. It seems everyone wants to be friends with us now." Song almost smiled at that. Fear was often more effective than friendship in maintaining galactic peace. The alien species weren't reaching out because they suddenly respected human culture. They were terrified of sharing the Kethvar's fate. The tactical displays showed the broader picture of how the galaxy had changed. Alien military buildups that had been in progress for decades had suddenly stopped. Species that had been preparing for territorial expansion were now focusing on defensive measures. Several aggressive civilizations had completely withdrawn from expansion activities, apparently deciding that conquest was too risky in a galaxy where humans could deploy 700,000 warships against anyone who threatened civilians. "Sir," called out Commander Li Bo from the intelligence station, We're intercepting communications between various alien governments. They're updating their military doctrines specifically to avoid conflict with human forces. What kind of updates? New rules of engagement that specifically forbid any actions that could be interpreted as threatening human civilians. Some species are even establishing buffer zones around human territory to prevent accidental incidents. Song studied the galactic map showing human space in the newly established buffer zones. The galaxy's power structure had shifted fundamentally. Humanity hadn't conquered new territory or demanded tribute from other species. Instead, they had demonstrated such overwhelming military superiority that other civilizations were voluntarily restricting their own activities to avoid provoking human retaliation. "Admiral," Kim Day announced, "final report from all colonial communications centers. Every human world is secure, peaceful, and reporting normal civilian activities. Children are playing in parks, farmers are tending their crops, scientists are conducting research. Life is continuing normally because 700,000 warships are making sure it can." Through the command center's viewing ports, Song could see the endless ranks of human vessels stretching to the horizon of space. Fighter squadrons moved between the larger ships like schools of protective fish. Supply convoys maintained perfect formation as they headed out to resupply the patrol groups. Mobile repair platforms worked continuously to keep the fleet at peak operational readiness. The Great Fleet wasn't just a military force anymore. It was humanity's promise to the galaxy. A promise that human children would sleep safely in their beds, that human farmers could tend their crops without fear, that human scientists could push the boundaries of knowledge without looking over their shoulders for alien predators. Signal. "All ships," Song ordered. "Begin standard patrol operations. The Great Fleet is now the permanent guardian of human space." As the orders went out across the fleet's communication networks, alien observers throughout the galaxy recorded humanity's final message. The species that had built 847 worlds through peaceful expansion had revealed their true nature when threatened. They were not conquerors seeking dominion over others, but builders and protectors who could unleash industrial-scale destruction with the same efficiency they used to colonize hostile worlds. The galaxy was quieter now. Alien military planners ran calculations they didn't like sharing with their superiors. Diplomatic protocols were updated to ensure that no action could be interpreted as threatening human civilians. And in the darkness between stars, 700,000 human warships patrolled silently, ensuring that New Eden's fate would never be repeated. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had learned to listen.